So they set up this, theme, this tone for the family. It's like, hey, you're gonna be a scientist and you're gonna be an engineer or whatever. Just follow this path.
Yeah.
I guess I was just trying to rebel.
Welcome to Did I Do That? It's a podcast about making graphic design and making mistakes because it's all part of the process. I'm Sean Schumacher, and joining me today, a very special guest. For over 15 years, he's been a creative leader for companies like Uber, Lululemon, Ogilvy, and Saatchi & As a design activist for social change, he has spoken about his work on several global platforms, including NPR and Creative Mornings. And since beating cancer himself, he founded Not Entirely Dead, or NED, a social enterprise championing cancer survivors in the workplace, named the 2022 Social Design of the Year by the AIGA. It's Eason Yang. Hello, Eason. Welcome.
Hi, Sean.
Thank you. You had a long drive down here. You're normally Seattle based.
Yeah.
And you just got in just a minute ago.
Yeah, I didn't get pulled over, so that was good.
Always a danger on I-5. It's like they'll get you for sure.
Hopefully not today, not tonight, right?
Oh yeah, so you're heading straight back up.
I'm heading back tonight, yeah.
So you came here just for me?
For you. Exactly.
Oh my
Sean.
God,
I know.
Eason,
You're special on the Irish holiday.
I should say, as we record, it is St. Patrick's Day. Wow, yeah, that's incredible. I did not realize how generous this really was to me.
It's fun.
Well, thank you for coming. So as I mentioned before, as we're recording, it is perhaps sort of the strangest of, you might call, the retail seasons of the year.
Yeah.
The run up to Easter. I think a lot of companies feel like they really got the idea of you can just sell things for Christmas from October until December. And if there was a way that we could do that with other holidays, then we would be millionaires. And so they've decided to just sort of pick some random holidays and do that. And I feel like this is the weirdest one because Easter is the one that they picked. And, and Easter is, when you really get down to it, just a strange holiday that has nothing to do with anything.
I still don't know how to celebrate it.
It's rabbits, it's, peeps, it's eggs that are hidden in lawns that are only discovered, 2 or 3 months later once they start to stink an incredible amount.
Yeah.
It's so bizarre. But what I have grown to love about this season is, that middle thing, the peeps, because I feel like that is a company that really looked at this season and just said, I found an opportunity here. I want to take advantage of the fact that as a company, I'm a seasonal treat. Easter is the season for having peeps. And so I'm just going to go buck wild for 3 months of the year and come up with all the strangest things that humans could possibly conceive of around sugary, strange, rabbits and chicks. So I picked up what I think might actually be the taker. I should say there's another one that I picked up as a gift for someone recently, which is the Dr. Pepper Peeps.
Yeah.
They're flavored with Dr. Pepper.
I like Dr. Pepper.
I will say, as a connoisseur of Peeps, I've had a lot of Peeps. Dr. Pepper Peeps.
That's some novelty there, right?
It's very novelty, very goofy, very I'm sure it's some sort of brand collaboration that
oh, yeah, of course.
made sense in the moment, and then the next day they woke up and were like, what were we doing? Yeah. Dr. Pepper Peeps? But they are delicious, and I highly recommend them. But maybe the strangest one of all, even stranger than that, is what I have right below me.
Uh-oh.
It is this.
Oh, boy. Oh,
It is limited edition.
Oh, gosh.
Pepsi X Peeps.
Wow.
This is... It's not even the kind of collaboration you'd expect, which would be based on the Dr. Pepper one, Peeps that are flavored like Pepsi.
Yeah.
Instead, what they have chosen to do is go the other way with it. These are, as the box says, artificial marshmallow flavored Pepsi.
Wow. I mean, the color, it's bold, right?
extraordinarily bold. Because you can't see it, I'm going to tell you the box that I have pulled out is the brightest yellow. I think this is like Pantone just yellow C. If I had to guess, like just the most saturated possible yellow, and the cans themselves are yellow. And that is, we were talking about this beverage in me and my co-teachers the other day. And, the fact that like yellow is not necessarily a color you always want associated with a beverage.
That's why they're bold.
Yeah, they're very bold. What I don't care for about these, I will say, is that they were not bold enough to call them Peepsy, which is the thing that I want them to be called. Dr. Pepper.
You know what? Just pitch them. Send them an email like, hey, I have this idea, like, for a marketing naming, challenge or whatever.
Yeah.
Send them the name.
PC.
Yeah.
It's an easy A.
Yeah.
Easy win for everybody. And somehow they missed it. I'm trying to get this box open.
It might just, have gone viral.
It might. These are so tiny. They're
man.
Little tiny. And they're cold for some reason. I don't know why they're cold.
Do I dare to try?
Dare to dream, Eason.
Oh, wow.
Like I think this is our future.
Okay, it's
why
legit,
are they
right?
so cold? I don't understand it. They haven't been exposed to cold. They've been in here. All right, I'm opening mine.
Okay,
I'm gonna do this on mic. So
it seems like a knockoff because it's just so hard to associate the brand and this neon yellow thing.
It doesn't look right. It looks very wrong. And
where did you get it?
I got this at Fred Meyer, I believe.
Here in Portland?
Yes, our
Not
great
like
regional
Thailand
grocery.
or somewhere, right?
No, these are legit. These were
okay.
I will say they were on clearance, which definitely suggests that they are not good.
On clearance?
Yeah, and maybe don't.
But it's
taste...
seasonal. It's so timely. It's on clearance. Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I think it's in the genre of. Oh, you just took a sip. I want to get your reaction here.
Oh boy.
That feels about right.
It's well, let's say I think it's exotic.
Exotic is a good way to put it. I'm actually gonna take a sip. I can smell it from here though. It's like so strong. Here we go.
Is it?
God. Oh. It's just enough Pepsi that it's very bad. And then so much marshmallow hits you like a second after you take the sip that it's just like, ah.
It is the new Coke.
It
is the new Coke. Right? It is.
It's as bad an idea as New Coke was. Absolutely.
Wow. But interesting,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, what would it be like if Pepsi just tomorrow said, like, actually, I think we really nailed it with that Peeps collaboration. That's the new Pepsi. We're getting rid of the old recipe.
But now I really wish they could name this Peepsy.
It needs that.
Right?
That
would be so much better.
It would be so much better. I think the thing about it is, like, especially having tasted it now, it's not good. It's quite bad. My mouth tastes like I've had some sort of children's antibiotic. It just
but I think
coated in gross.
It's the same bad as all other novel flavors like the cherry Coke.
I don't know. I mean, cherry Coke I like.
Really?
I do. I mean, but like,
what are the other ones? Cucumber Coke or there's some
what
weird
are the
ones.
other ones? They have a lot now.
Vanilla Coke.
Vanilla Coke. That's their big one, I think. That's their big other option. I mean, Coke is another brand that is just throwing a lot of spaghetti at the wall. But these, I feel like, for all the work they're doing with these cans, with the little Peeps illustrations, which I think are leaning way too hard into the bunnies, which are not really the ones that people think of as Peeps. I think you need it to be Peepsy to really hammer home what the gag is.
Yeah.
It just, it feels like it's in between right now. It feels like the can is a contract negotiation.
That's true.
That's not really the vibe of the flavor at all.
And just look at the package. How many names here? Pepsi, Peeps.
Yeah. Yeah, you need them both in logo form and written out. Oh, wow, this is weird. I've never noticed what the Peeps
This should be
brand
your
is.
your the cover for your show this season, or
Yeah,
at least for this episode.
Season 3 cover art, we're rolling it out. It's just the Peeps branding. Weirdly, so I'm looking at the copyright notice on the side.
Also, like, look at the color, because you have the yellow.
I do have the yellow,
right, for your show, and this thing is very yellow. Okay, I'm nominating this as the new cover for our show.
Maybe this
just
is
call
a
it a
good
limited
fit.
edition.
Yeah. This is the 2023 edition of Did I Do That?
Yeah.
At the end of last season, we nominated, Arizona Iced Tea, me and Nick Agnew. Arizona Iced Tea, Diet Half and Half, Arnold Palmer,
Yeah.
Iced Tea and Lemonade as the show drink of that season. Maybe the show drink of our season is what should be called Peepsy.
I love Pepsi. Go with Pepsi.
Yeah. Wow, the flavor's really bad. It's so problematic.
I'm gonna go back to my mountain water.
Yeah, I think that's the right choice. Otherwise I'm gonna keep drinking it and keep complaining about it, and that doesn't serve anyone very well. But Eason, as we mentioned earlier, you've been up in Seattle for a while. How did you get up there? What do you do? Like, how are things? What a good question this is. The Peepsy's eaten into my brain.
Yeah. Well, I lived in Seattle for almost 2 years. I moved out during the pandemic. Originally I'm from Beijing, China, and the first time I landed in this country was 16, 17 years ago.
Wow.
I did school in Ohio, Midwest. That was a big contrast,
Yeah, had you been to the Midwest before you
Never
went to school there?
That's one of the stories people ask me a lot, like, why Ohio? Why? What was the thinking, behind that when you were picking schools and learning design? I'll tell you the truth. I'm a basketball fan.
Oh,
I love LeBron James. So back like 17 years ago, I had zero knowledge about this country, but I was watching basketball, NBA all the time, and I was like, wow. I wanted to be closer with LeBron James. I wanted to watch the games all the time.
yeah.
So I look at the map, and okay, let's go to Ohio. So that's how I picked it.
So no other research, no other
No,
this is the school.
Yeah, that was the passion. That was the passion for basketball.
Had you before you did that? Had you? Because you went for design,
Yeah.
right? What was your entry point into design before that?
I guess I always had, a thing for art, for design, even though I didn't really understand, the difference between art and design. When I was younger, I always wanted to, learn that, because I was a pretty artsy and crafty kid when I was in school.
Yeah.
I also had traumatized college, education experience with computer science.
Oh, well,
Yeah,
that'll
'cause,
do it. Yeah.
My
Regardless of
my
what continent you are,
parents,
that's a
right.
bad time.
It's a family thing. My parents, they're professors in
Oh.
computer science.
Oh,
So,
really?
right. So they set up this, theme, this tone for the family. It's like, hey, you're gonna be a scientist and you're gonna be an engineer or whatever. Just follow this path.
Yeah.
I guess I was just trying to rebel. That's a lot of people do.
Yeah.
So
That's what college is for in a lot of ways.
yeah, finding yourself and stuff, right? So I wanted to learn something else, and I don't think I'm a very logic person, thinking about mathematics and all these things. I'm okay with it, but it's not like the way I think.
It's very left-brained thinking.
I'm very much right-brained.
Yeah.
So I always wanted to utilize that part of my brain. So yeah, I just wanted to learn design, and that's how I landed, Ohio.
So before you went to Ohio, you hadn't really done any of it. It was just
I've done photography stuff, drawing, and very limited graphic design experience. Basically just clip arts, right? Or all these things, silly stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, basically none of legit training or education.
That must have been a huge leap to feel like you were taking.
Yeah.
move to the other side of the world, like, and do this thing that like you were interested in, but you
Yeah.
hadn't really gotten to mess around with yet.
Yeah, but it was also like, I guess I found my passion
Yeah.
like right away, and learning design, and I just felt like, okay, it was right.
Yeah.
I didn't really understand the term of career by then because I just started, right? But I found like, okay, I want to do this, and I wanted to sit in the couch or sit in on my chair, like, just forever, and working on these things, picking the right fonts and picking the right colors, and doing all the layouts, starting from all these things. So that was great, and that's how I started design. But the beginning of the story was very silly. It was about LeBron James. And let's say this, and I think LeBron James, he doesn't know about it until today.
LeBron James, yeah, big
Changed
listener
someone's
to
life, from the other side of the world.
Absolutely,
Yeah, right?
absolutely. Like when you got there, like, were you disappointed that you didn't meet LeBron?
Oh gosh, so bad because I found out later when I landed the college town called Athens, Ohio, right? Ohio University. So
yeah.
after I landed there, I realized, okay, it's actually 4 hours, from Cleveland. So it's quite a hustle to watch the basketball game.
Yeah, and Athens is like a small college town,
super tiny college town, 20,000 people.
Yeah,
Yeah,
probably completely empties out basically in summer.
Yeah, of course. And the worst thing is the basketball season was over, right?
Yeah. So then you're really not getting a chance to meet LeBron.
Yeah.
Like what were your first classes like? What was it like kind of getting into things there?
I studied publication design.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Very traditional kind of graphic design. And let's say this. When I started learning design, my dream job, I wanted to be one of those magazine designers and book designers, right? Just doing the traditional media. And my heroes were like Chip Kidd, doing the book covers, right? And also, I really looked up to Shepard Fairey because that was his time.
Yeah, absolutely,
yeah,
absolutely.
Early 2000s and about also like right before the Obama, the Hope poster.
Yeah, like that was kind of, I feel like, when he got exposed to the public consciousness. But he had been like, I think, big within art and design circles for a long time before that.
So I studied a lot of book design, publication design. We did a lot of magazine covers, newspapers. I was even like doing the student contest in like news design, all these things.
Wow.
So that was pretty good because I always thought I was a layout person, and that aspect of design is basically just all layout, right? You're laying out everything.
Like you are structuring information based on grids, and it's so fun, but it is like puzzle making essentially. Like it sounds like they have such a good program for that.
It's actually a great program. You know why? Because it's actually one of the best journalism programs in the country.
Oh.
That's why they're setting up this visual communication for the journalist, background.
Interesting.
Right? So many people actually, went to that program just to learn news design, publication design. It's big. It's a big thing. Because they have, this background, this context.
God, that sounds like an amazing program, actually.
Yeah.
Like back, 1,000 years ago, when I was in my, I believe, 1 week as a student at the University of Nevada, Reno, I'd gone up there for journalism. And in the span of that week, I realized I did not want to do that. I wanted to do some sort of art thing. But like in a way, that would have been kind of the perfect program.
Yeah. Oh, of course. Now you should go visit.
Out in Athens, Ohio.
Yeah. But let me tell you, what happened after that program was also interesting because I graduated 08, 09.
Oh,
so
a
So
great
that was
time to be getting
great
into the
time.
workforce.
That was the last recession, right? The last recession.
Yeah, by the time this goes out, I think we will be squarely in the middle of the current one.
Exactly.
But,
And something particular happened to design was the publication died
yeah.
in '08, right?
Yeah.
Magazines completely died. The newspapers, no one's reading newspapers.
Yeah,
And all
that
these-
was the beginning of the great culling
right. So
of
that was very
regional
particular.
newspapers.
So no one had any job
Yeah.
in publication design or news design, anything
Yeah.
like that. So that was, very personal to us. So
That is such a hard place to step right out
Yeah.
into, especially after studying in that, like, that intersection being like one
it's
of the
so
ones
particular.
most
It's like,
acutely affected.
why this is happening, right?
Like, what did you do? How did you go forward from there?
So, I started to thinking about like what should I do, right?
Yeah.
What are other careers or even other like sectors I should be chasing of. And what I realized, I found art direction in advertising.
Yeah.
Because if you're looking at early stage print ads, they're basically same principles, same kind of ideation like the New
Absolutely.
York Times magazine covers. Right?
Yeah.
So that's how I started my career. I just started to look at all the advertising companies, advertising agencies, and I thought that was the closest thing I could found. Also, like, it seems more fun, right? These people, they have a lot of funky ideas.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a very working in advertising is a very weird environment for design.
It's strange, but it's also like, okay, I'm willing to try. I would just do whatever it takes to get myself a job, right?
Yeah.
Because the other thing completely died. What am I gonna do?
Yeah, there's not really a pivot point from
There's
there.
no pivot, and there wasn't, a new media. There wasn't
No.
an iPad, iPhone. There wasn't any kind of those new publication design at all.
Then as now, nobody in journalism can figure out how to monetize things online.
Exactly. So I had to pivot it for myself.
Yeah. That's very smart.
Yeah.
Like where did you end up like in the ad world then?
So I started looking into all the creative agencies online, like just literally searching best creative agencies names
Yeah.
and looking all the award-winning print works, because that's what I was good at, the print work, all these posters or print ads. I just applied everywhere, I guess. And in the story, it's I think I made my first career mistake right there. It's I had 2 job offers about the same week.
Oh.
One company is Crispin Potter and Bogoski, which is out in Miami.
Very nice.
Yeah, and the other place is Ogilvy.
And
So-
I mean, that's the big name.
It's
in
big
a lot of
name.
ways of the ad world.
But the other one, Crispin Potter, it wasn't the biggest name, but it was
No.
hot.
yeah.
It was super popular and just like a funky name. But I didn't know that. And when I got the 2 offers, I was like, okay, if I get to go to Ogilvy, who cares about this Crispin Potter thing?
Yeah.
And since the first day I went into Ogilvy, I realized, okay, that's probably the biggest mistake, I made, because people, they were just studying Crispin Potter's work.
Oh, wow.
They did like the Whopper freak out, probably in the early 2000s, and they did a lot of famous campaigns, great work, and people were just talking about these hot, agencies.
Oh.
And I was like, oh man, what did I do? It's like I could just go to Crispin Potter and probably knocking on Ogilvy's doors like, hey, I came from Crispin Potter.
Oh God, that's a horrible feeling.
Yeah, that was a horrible feeling, and it took me, to be honest, it took me quite a few years, probably 3-4 years, just to get over with it, because I
Yeah.
constantly thought about, oh gosh, the mistake.
Boy, that's a big mistake. Like, and where did you end up like working for Ogilvy? Like,
I moved back to Beijing.
wow. So
Yeah,
you were
so
working
that
in
was
China.
right. So that was the decision I made because I was thinking Miami from Ohio. Okay, I had to drive 2 days,
Yeah.
3 days, and from Ohio to Beijing, I'll just take a 1 day flight. It's probably easier.
Yeah.
So that was pretty rational.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, unless it was the Miami that's in Ohio,
Yeah.
home of Miami
No.
University. I always love that there's a Miami University in Ohio, and I think they have to market themselves specifically with the tagline "in Ohio" because people are so misled
Yeah.
by that.
But I always remember that first mistake in my career, and I still remember the letter sent to me from HR people, from Crispin Porter, because I
Yeah.
asked them like, "Hey, what's this job about? Can you just fill me in? I'm a fresh, college grad. I don't know anything yet."
Yeah.
And the HR people emailed me. The job is very simple. Basically, it's about mounting and trimming for creative directors. I remember that super clear until today.
Interesting.
And I Googled it. What does it mean, mounting and trimming? What do you mean? I didn't ask them. I didn't really chase the question like, what do you mean trimming and mounting? I figured out later, basically, a few years out of my career, I figured out later, you're just doing the, groundwork, Photoshop, and Illustrator work for the creative directors. That's the mounting and trimming, what they meant.
I will say, when you said it, I was thinking, like, are they still presenting things on like Matboard or something like that?
Maybe. But there's no way I could ever find out, right?
Yeah.
I missed the opportunity.
Well, I think that's on them for not being more clear. But like, I mean, I think it's also hard because we have students, and I'm sure you do too, like, who, when they graduate, they'll have like the big name in their head. Like they're like, I want to go to Wieden and Kennedy.
Yeah.
This
is the place.
It's the place. It's the place that I've heard of. They're big. They're bold. They're doing global work.
They're a local company.
They are locally grown. But like, it is also like not necessarily going to be the right fit for a lot of folks too. And if you are just looking at the name, sometimes you miss, like you did, like the opportunity that might have been like way more creatively fulfilling for you.
Yeah.
And also just being in Miami would be great.
Yeah. I could also relate that because I think for designers, it's always tricky to find yourself fit in advertising agencies, creative agencies, because the designers in creative agencies, they're different kind of designers.
Yeah.
And art directors are even like their skill sets, they're just different.
Yeah.
And the traditional kind of graphic designers, they're like in between in all these types of jobs.
Absolutely.
So you're juggling everything. You're learning, and
you're a Swiss Army knife.
Right, exactly. And also like you're trying to utilize your design skills, but they don't need it all the time. Sometimes they need something else, and the aesthetics are different. So yeah, I had quite some time to just blend in that environment.
Yeah.
And it's not even everyone understands design. They understand more other stuff.
Yeah, because like, I mean, the people who do, get elevated in advertising tend to be the salespeople, and certainly some of the design creatives, but like way less than you'll see in the studio.
And if you're like classic graphic designer, if you go to creative agencies, I think people will actually look down on you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's interesting. So how long were you at Ogilvy then?
I was at Ogilvy for about probably a couple years. I did more agency work with other names like Saatchi & Saatchi, DDB. That was the tail of this agency glory,
Yeah.
after probably 7-8 decades, right? After Don Draper time. So that was the tail of this entire glory. And I experienced that the whole industry was dying. I think today it's like dead. Completely just dead.
It's a very interesting time because, I mean, well, I think some of it too is like this weird self-fulfilling prophecy of like people are getting more hostile towards advertising because it is starting to feel more invasive and more intense in its like desperation. And, I don't know a human that you would like if they're that intense and desperate and like in your face and like, I know where you've been and I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
You would be like, yeah, cool. I will buy that shirt. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Instagram ads.
Yeah.
No, that's terrible.
And
That's a bad system, guys.
right. And I think in the early days, advertising could attract probably the smartest and most creative people. You know, everywhere. That's why it was super sexy, right?
Yeah.
And these days, it doesn't have that glory, and not like all the creative people want to do that.
So like advertising is sort of you're kind of realizing the wheels are coming off the cart.
Yeah.
What do you do? What's your pivot from there?
I think even though I realized the industry was dying, was struggling, but I still like the creativity about advertising and big ideas.
Yeah.
I think that the biggest learning for me for the years with agencies was about the big ideas and human insights. That's all the learning, right? Because they really look into the insights and they really look into people as consumers, which is probably not the right way. Because all these terms in design we're learning right now is like human-centered design or design thinking, a lot of things. In advertising, they have different terms, but the human insights is always there. So that's what I liked. And I thought I was pretty good at, doing creative work because I hit my first career high probably only a few years out. I was this thing called Ken's Young Line.
What's that?
It's probably one of the most prestigious award you could win before 30.
Wow.
For creative people. So, yeah, I won that in 2012 when I was, 29.
Wow.
So right before 30.
Yeah.
So I made that, and I just felt like, okay, it's pretty good. I think that was the moment I realized, okay, now I could let this Crispin Potter mistake go.
Yeah.
I worked pretty hard. I found myself. I don't have to think about this mistake anymore.
No, you climbed the mountain.
Yeah.
Like you're on top.
Yeah.
Having done that, like you were like, I need to maybe make a change now and find what my next part of the story is.
Yeah, because I just realized, advertising and creative industry is all about the ideas, but most of the ideas, they stay at presentation levels, right?
Yeah.
People are like working so hard overnight for these ideas, but they don't really persist.
No.
They don't push hard.
They end up in a pitch, and then the pitch gets sanded down so much that it's like it barely resembles the pitch.
Even like if you launch anything, if you produce a campaign, and when you launch the campaign, bam, you're done.
Yeah.
That's the end of the work, because that's basically for a lot of ideas, great work, that's just the beginning.
Yeah.
And for advertising people, that's okay, let's celebrate. We're done. That's just so
it's
wrong.
Founders Day.
Yeah, it's just so wrong. And I realized that, and I always wanted to learn, like, okay, how can we push all the things forward, and how can we actually make... I think people say this a lot, like, how could we make bigger impact? I didn't understand that term, but I just wanted to learn, like, okay, probably I want to learn something else, at least the business perspective on the creative side.
Yeah.
So I left agency world a couple of years later. Then I moved to the in-house creative teams world. So that was a bigger world, a bigger platform for creative people.
Were you still in China at that point, or were you?
I was in China. So,
okay.
But I was working for American companies. So I think that time was interesting. Looking back, it was because I think the time was when the whole world, especially America, was still very interested in this concept of China. Right?
Yeah,
Everyone's fascinated about China. It's like, hey, let's go to China. Let's do business with China. So that was the time.
Absolutely. Right then, I feel like was like the apex of it.
Right. And I was very lucky because I could speak 2 languages. So I was always building the bridge, for the 2 continents. And, because creative work is all about communication.
Yeah.
And if you don't speak the language, if you don't understand the culture, and if you don't understand like what are the differences, people are coming from, there's no way you can deliver creative work.
Yeah.
So it's all about these communication, issues. So I was lucky working for American companies in China. But that was also like the tail of this China concept glory. People are not interested in China anymore these days. No one's interested.
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's been.
But I had my time, and so I joined in-house creative teams, and starting from a big dinosaur company called Schneider Electric.
Oh, of the elevator?
Not that one,
Oh.
but something else.
Oh, I'm thinking
It's
of
like
Schindler.
it's a French version of General Electric.
Oh.
So they do a lot of everything. I don't even know. It's like
Just
it's
miscellaneous
it's so
electric.
big, and
Yeah.
I think after a year or two, there was an engineer summarized the company's mission very well for us, for the designers and creatives in the company. It's like, so we do everything about electricity after you generated electricity. So that was
I mean,
like,
at least you're setting some boundaries somewhere.
yeah. So that was like the moment I realized, okay, everything makes sense right now.
Yeah.
Because that was the early stage. All these big corporates are trying to build up in-house creative teams. So it's actually very luxury for startups or smaller firms to build in-house creative teams.
Yeah.
Only like the biggest, corporates can actually do that. But that was too slow. It was like a big dinosaur company. It was not me. That was such an easy job.
We have 500 million products.
Yeah, but it's also like just so easy,
Yeah.
for like creative, people, for the lifestyle.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, to go from advertising where you are like, I mean, there's
No
a million
sleep.
things going on at
Right.
once, and like half-second deadlines too. Like, in-house work is often considered like, the retirement plan for design.
Of course. I
Like-
didn't realize, that before signing the contract. but let's just say this. I practiced my cooking skills the time when I was working at Schneider Electric, because I get off work like 4:30 every day. I
Ooh.
drove home. I cooked for my wife for a couple of years. It was too easy.
That does sound lovely though. I wouldn't mind a little of that.
Then
Oh.
and I just wanted some more challenges.
Yeah.
Then suddenly this opportunity came up with Uber. That was the most exciting time for internet, for Silicon Valley, for tech companies.
Yeah, was this like early Uber? Like,
Early Uber. That was
right
early
at the
Uber.
beginning.
That was
wow.
very early stage. We were building up creative systems, for the entire world.
Wow. A big ambitious product.
Yeah. So that was great, because that was the very extreme contrast with the easy job.
Yeah.
And it was early stage. It was a startup mode, and everyone's hustling. And that was also like the time people were championing this hustle culture. That's not a thing
that
today.
was a big thing in tech at that
Right,
time.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, but I loved it. And I'm a hustler. I always hustle. So I was like, okay, I don't mind. Just let me work. I
Yeah.
love this.
It's one thing to opt into it. I think the harder part is when you don't. And it sounded like you maybe needed some energy at that point after
Yeah.
just like the sleepy time of Schneider.
Yeah.
What were you doing at Uber? Like,
We were doing all types of creative works. Besides building the product, we were running campaigns. Building the brand, designing the brand. There are so many things we could do, and there was also a lot of initiatives coming from creative side, because just so many ideas you can come up with just to serve the people and to serve the mission. So that was actually probably my dream job. It was just great, because for traditional in-house teams, you take briefs from marketing department or from product department.
yeah.
But at Uber, when we were building the team, basically it's not about taking the briefs. It's about taking the drive. We could actually take the drive. we could actually come up with our own initiative or our own ideas, and we go
Oh.
back, to marketing teams like, hey, can you support us? Can we do this? Can we do that? So that was great.
Huh. That's actually really interesting.
That was also like, that was also luxury because it's not like all the opportunities you could do that.
No, and I'm sure you can't do it there or pretty much any tech company now. I mean, that's really wild. I mean, it's just kind of everybody's,
It could be, every creative director's dream, having that kind of autonomous, also like it's just so much empowerment, from everyone.
Like what eventually made you leave Uber?
I didn't well, I didn't want to leave the job, but I had this thing I found out was a cancer diagnose. Made me leave my job. It was the very last day of 2016.
Oh God.
I found out. I know it's cancer, it's all about the weirdest timing, when people are like doing some celebrations, or it's always weird.
Yeah.
So very last day of 2016, and I found out I had cancer, and I had to, I guess I freaked out, and I didn't know what to do, and my family and everyone didn't know what to do. I just quit my job the next day.
Really?
I didn't tell anyone what happened. It's just like I just kind of like vanished.
Wow.
Because it was also like I didn't know how to communicate. I didn't know what to say, and I was also thinking about, is this detrimental to my career if I tell people, I have cancer? People probably see me differently, so I was just like, okay, let me just disappear for a minute.
Yeah.
And I probably will come back. I don't even know, because I didn't know if I had a chance to live,
Wow.
when I found out the diagnosis. So I was like, okay, this is the only priority right now.
Yeah. You got to take care of yourself, but that's a huge change.
That was a huge change on everything. So it's like thinking about, my life. It's like doing the dream job, flying over between continents, like, and the next day, bam.
Yeah.
There's like, I've lost, well, I think from now, I could, looking back, I thought that was probably the moment I lost everything, not just a job.
Yeah.
I lost my community, right?
Yeah.
A social status. Like, you are not in this society. You're not contributing anything anymore. You're just a patient, right? So that was the moment, like, okay, I became a society fallout.
Do you feel like that was informed like just by fear of like having to slow down primarily to deal with this, or like?
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Yeah, what was it like kind of working through your cancer diagnosis, and like what did you do after you kind of like stepped away from everything?
Yeah. So I had to save my life, first, right?
Yeah.
And it took me about 2 years, just finishing all the treatment and surgeries and everything, because it was this super annoying thing called recurrence happened to me, like quite a few times. It was like, the most annoying thing.
Just it wouldn't get out.
Wouldn't get out. And
God.
So it's like, hey, let's celebrate this and finish 10 circles of chemos. And after 10 weeks, they're like, oh, it came back. So it's like,
God,
it's super annoying.
You got to experience the George W. Bush mission accomplished banner over and over again.
It's over and over. And at a certain point, I was like, this thing is so annoying. I want to kill it for good.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just annoyed. I'm not even, I'm not even angry anymore. I'm not sad. I'm not like terrified or in fear. Nothing like that. I'm just annoyed.
Yeah.
So, I guess I made up my mind. I found best medical team in the world for the particular kind of cancer I had. The doctor actually located in Indianapolis,
Oh.
He's the doctor of Lance Armstrong's. That's why, yeah,
Yeah.
they made each other famous. I know. So, and I found the doctor. I met the medical team, and that was my ultimate cure. Or let me just knock on the wood, because
Yeah.
I'm 4 years and a half cancer free
Wow.
since I met the team. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it took me about 2 years to get out of that basement of hell.
Yeah. And your life is on hold the
My
entire
life
time.
was on hold, and the entire family's life was on hold.
Yeah.
And after that, I was really eager to go back to my career.
Yeah.
Because I realized, nothing should have stopped, and life still has to go on, right?
Yeah.
And I wanted to go back to career because I loved what I did, and I still love, my job, and I love being a designer and doing all these creative works. And I always thought I was, pretty good, right?
Absolutely.
It's such a waste of talent if I don't do it anymore. So I was just like, I was dying to go back to my work. I was so eager to go back to my career. And something I realized, I never realized that, during the treatment, and before that, for my entire life, there was this thing called unconscious bias,
Yeah.
right? And against this stigma around this disease, and the stigma around, people who have a career gap.
Yeah.
I clearly had a career gap of 2 years, and that's something like I couldn't really hide, right?
Yeah.
And whenever I try to hide it, it may even make it more weird. And
yeah, like they'll ask about it. They'll
Yeah.
interrogate it. and
they
it's-
will interrogate a
Yeah.
lot. And I started to applying for jobs. I started to talk to recruiters, and I started to hear all these interrogation about the gap. Like, oh, hey, what did you do? Do you still read newspapers? Are you still relatable? Do you think you can still, perform the way you did?
Jesus.
I didn't prepare for all these things.
No.
And I was like,
And those are also like such. It feels like such inappropriate questions.
well,
too.
but it's real. Let's just say it's real.
People
Even
are
like
gonna
the
do it.
people,
Yeah.
even like for the people, they didn't ask you these questions.
They're on
You
their
could
mind.
kind of like
Yeah.
feel like they're asking themselves in their head, right?
Yeah.
Someone even like hang up the phone when I told the person like, oh, I had a cancer experience. I had to do the treatment to save my life, and that was just.
What the fuck?
So,
Jesus. What's wrong with people?
But I know, right?
Oh
but
my God.
that's just what happened. It's just like, I guess it was, for that particular person, it was probably too overwhelming for that person to, even react or to respond anything.
Eason, I appreciate your generosity so much. You are giving these folks a lot more than they deserve.
So that was the moment I realized, okay, for cancer survivors or cancer patients, the fight, it's not just to the disease, right?
Yeah.
It's for everything. And the hurdles after the fight with the disease, it's even like greater.
Yeah.
It's just crazy.
You're always going to have that gap, and you're always going to have to explain it.
Yeah, exactly. And I started to think.
Yeah.
I just started to think about this problem. I just started to, think about how I can like solve this problem. A, for myself, and B, probably, help other people. Because I had a pretty privileged career, with all the biggest names, the shiniest names on my resume. What I could imagine was, what about some people, they never had the experience, to work for these biggest companies?
Yeah.
They just have a resume. Would that be even, harder for them?
Yeah.
To mediate that gap, or to talk to the recruiters, to talk to the hiring managers, right? So I thought about all these things. That's probably the beginning of this thought, forming Ned, not entirely dead.org today.
And that's a big project. So and it's coming from your lived experience.
Yeah.
Like how does Ned work? Like what do you do through the project?
Yeah, so these days this thing it's outgrowing me. It's outgrowing me. Since I launched this officially about a year or so ago.
I didn't realize it was that recently.
It's pretty recent. I spent quite some time, building, planning, and designing everything.
Yeah, and you were working on it as part of your master's thesis at
exactly.
UW.
Yeah, when I was writing the thesis, I was also like building this thing, designing the whole thing. I spent probably a year or so, almost 2 years, to build up this thing, designing the brand, designing the initiative, and designing all the communication channels. But since I launched it officially in 2022, it has been outgrowing me like in every aspect. It's I'm not running it today. It is running me. It's I think a lot of my friends they're just telling me like, okay, it's a good problem to have, right? But it's also like it's challenging me in every aspect. It's getting bigger than me. It's getting so big, and people can resonate with this initiative very well. And it's beyond severe disease already. It's just all about the relevance with the personal growth over adversity. Because everyone could resonate with that.
Yeah.
And I think I've been thinking about this a lot, like why this is growing so fast, why this is, getting so much recognition from everywhere. I think for me, my understanding is emotionally, we hate cancer so much. We hate it, right? Just from our guts, we hate it. Because we all lose our friends, family members, and there's nothing you can do about it. Absolutely nothing. And when you heard people talking about surviving and, they're survivors, you're like started to root for them.
Yeah.
I think that's why this thing is, having its momentum.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like reclaiming the space. Like, I mean, I can't get the image out of my head of that lady hanging up on you and like thinking about just like.
Oh, me neither. I couldn't. I still think about that lady. It's like I want that. I want to call, that lady back. It's like, hey, look at what I did.
Yeah.
It's because of you. You rejected me with the rudest.
Yeah. It's so, but like, I think you're right. Like, I'm sure a big part of that was like just the fear and just feeling like this is too hot a potato to even like touch or have in my periphery. I've got to like run away. And like that isn't really an option for people who have had cancer. Like,
right.
You have to deal with it.
Exactly. And to answer your question, like there are basically 3 parts of the initiative.
Yeah.
3 parts of my job. It's first of all, it's an education to the general public because I'm educating the everyday people, like the hurdles after that fight, right?
Yeah.
Because what we experience, it's most people understand like how difficult, how hard to fight cancer itself, but not everyone recognizes after the fight there's a lot more to come, right? And you have to deal with this for the rest of your life. And moving forward with your life, from my personal experience, it's just as formidable as fighting the disease itself. I'm still like struggling with moving forward with everything today. It's just like it's still hard. Everything is hard. And I wanted the general public to understand that. So starting to understand the problem, they could probably, thinking about not hanging up the phone with, someone in the future, right? And the second, it's I'm building this community for cancer survivors, starting from young adult cancer survivors, because these people, they're in their prime working age. They still, they care about their job. They're passionate about their career. They wanted to go back. And they just want to move forward with their life, and they need a job to do that, to move forward. Right? So I'm building this community and providing them career coaching service. I'm working with career coaches to build this service. We're going to launch this in a few weeks to provide the service to the people, basically to get them ready for their career.
Oh my gosh.
It's about, building their confidence again.
And
building their readiness when they're facing these uncomfortable moments and facing the interviews and interrogations, right?
Yeah. And no, I assume a lot of it is like also giving them the tools to know how to respond to those
Exactly.
questions and like
Yeah.
actually like, hey, I gained a lot of skills
Yes,
actually from this,
exactly.
even though they're a little different than you
Right.
might expect.
That's true. So they need the help because including myself, I thought I needed the career coaching help for myself. Surviving all these things, it's not like we lost the confidence for career, for jobs. We lost the confidence for life.
Yeah.
No one knows how to live again, right?
Yeah.
So I think that service, it's really important for cancer survivors. It's not the pep talk. It's not like, hey, you can do this, right? You rock. You are the best. It's not.
Yeah.
You actually need some tangible help.
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're like facing the questions, like how do you respond? And when you're like, facing all these doubts on your gap, on your career, how do you actually react? So there are a lot of these things, conversations. So we're building the programs for NAT right now. And the third thing is I'm working with corporates to try to build better, more equitable, and more inclusive career pathways for people who have the severe disease, right? And not even for the people who have severe disease, thinking about moms, right? Women, if they take 3 years off for, having a baby or 2 or 3, or taking 5 years off, there's no chance for them. Yeah. Basically, we're, dealing with the same problem. So whatever people need is more equitable and inclusive career pathways for these people. We're fighting the stigma. We're fighting this bias against this career gap.
Yeah. And in a lot of ways against being a human.
Exactly.
Which is so at the core of all of these issues.
Yeah, exactly. So, these are the things I'm doing. And there's a very lofty objective for my organization. It's ultimately, I want to rebrand the entire sector of cancer-related organizations. Because there are at least 12,000, cancer-related organizations. They do different kind of work around this topic, around cancer. But if you think about this brand image for this sector, it's sad.
It's real. It's the most
really sad.
Bland that a thing could be.
Yeah, it's sad. It's tragic. And it's it
hospital
makes me
branding. That's too exciting. We need to tone that way down.
Exactly. It makes me sick. It's like, this is not us.
Yeah.
Right? Because what I'm trying to do, I want to shift this narrative for the entire sector. I want to shift this, brand image. I want to focus on the power people actually have. The power of cancer survivors, it's incredible. Thinking about cancer survivors, everyone's like superhero running marathons.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and I remember reading that you have become a marathon runner.
Yeah. And I started that, from my cancer survivorship.
Yeah.
I was never a athletic kid when I was in, high school or college, nothing. So I think this is the mindset for cancer survivors. It's not like we're trying to do everything others can, right? We're trying to do everything others can't.
Yeah.
That's why cancer survivors are like crazy about running marathons. If you go to, each marathon, if you ask, these people, I bet there are just like so many cancer survivors.
Yeah.
It's one of the most cliche thing we could do. Yeah.
But maybe it just feels right to like test your body. And
it feels right, just because it's about the power of ourselves, and everyone is manifesting that. So I want to focus on that. I want to tell how strong, how resilient, how tenacious, and how badass cancer survivors are, right? So this is what people should focus on. Not the sad stories, right? Not the tragic. Not like, every time you tell people stories, they tilt their head. It's like, I'm sorry. It's not like that, right?
Yeah. It's like it's a chance to talk about the life that comes after.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's the thing that is better for everyone. And like, I think so much of this project, I mean, I kind of said it before, like it's about reclaiming the humanity in the workplace. Like it's like finding ways to talk about like, hey, we are not just like work automatons.
Yeah.
We're not Chat GPT.
No.
Things happen in our lives and we're doing work because we want to be humans.
We are.
and sometimes the things don't quite line up.
Right.
But like,
you're exactly right. Because, the relevance, because let's say this, I think what drives me, every day, it's like, first of all, we hate this, right? We want to fight it.
Yeah.
We want to win. Like, I think cancer survivors, if you have one word to capture, our personalities, like, we just want to win.
Yeah.
We're champions. We're winners. Because there's either lose or win, and there's no options for us.
Yeah.
Right?
Cells. I'm not going to be defeated by cells.
Exactly. We're like cornered, right? So for careers, it's the same thing. It's like we want to go back there. We want to win everything back.
Yeah.
And I think for companies, like they're being very silly. It's just so silly to give up on all the winners.
Yeah. People with these great like
the
skill sets
mindset,
outside.
The mindset. It's like, we just want to win. And it's so silly to give up on that mindset. So yeah, that's why I'm doing this, and that's what drives me every day. And also, like, I know for everyone, like including you and me, it's like we have so many problems in our lives as human, right? And let's say nobody gives a shit to each other's problems. Nobody cares, right? And let's just say that. Let's be honest. And I think that's a huge, deepest human insights.
Yeah.
We don't want to admit, but we don't give a shit to others' problems. And most people probably don't really care about, the cancer survivors' problems. That's why I'm solving this problem for ourselves.
Yeah.
If I'm not taking care of ourselves, no one would. No one cares.
Exactly. Yeah. You gotta fight for yourself.
Exactly.
Like, people won't always be in your corner when you need them.
Yeah.
That is so amazing. If people want to like get involved with Ned, like what do they do? How do they connect with it? Like especially the mentorship piece, like where do they go for that?
Yeah, right now there's a website, there's the social media. You can get in touch, through social media or website. Basically, I don't have a team yet. It's just me. So, whoever get in touch with this organization, it's just me.
That is, given what you've talked about how much this thing's growing, that makes it all the more remarkable.
It's crazy because I'm just a designer, and I also think this is why this thing is probably growing in its own way, because most nonprofits, all these organizations, a lot of founders, they're like MBA people.
Yeah.
So they know how to do business, and they know how to set up these things like legit.
Yeah, but they don't have a creative idea.
I had no idea how to set up, all these things as business. So all I know, just like design stuff. So I set up the brand and set up all the design aspect in the beginning. So I guess that was the novelty for all kinds of nonprofits. It's like, hey, this thing's kind of funky. It doesn't have all the legs it's supposed to have, but it looks right.
It does look right.
Yeah.
I actually I think I gave away your last sticker. Oh no, I still have one up there.
Yeah.
But I gave those away to folks, and like they're beautiful. Like, and I had a good number of them from AIGA because we met, I should say, because I don't think we've actually said this on mic. We met at the AIGA conference in part because you were going around and like giving these out.
Yeah.
And you had like a huge pile.
Yeah.
Because
I did.
Yeah. But I like it speaks to like I think that like that hustle mindset that you have of like you want to get this thing out there and connect with people, and I'm so glad that you did that day because like we were able to connect. And, like
I think that was one of the best things happening at AIGA conference.
Yeah.
Because I guess I didn't know what else to do in that conference just to spread the word. Because the interesting thing was that was before I won this social design of the year for AIGA.
Yeah, it was right before that stuff
That
came
was
out.
before
Yeah.
that. So I turned my proposal for that conference. I wanted to speak at that conference, but the response I got was, "Hey, Eason, your thing, it's not research."
Oh God!
That was
Really?
I screenshot that email. I still have it.
Jesus.
So I was like, okay, what do you mean not research? I did 2 years, academic
It was
research.
your
And
thesis.
yeah, it was my thesis. So
Peer reviewed.
yeah, exactly. So I was pretty mad. I was pretty angry, but
What the fuck?
I think later on they corrected their mistake very well.
Yeah,
They gave me that
I
award.
would say
that was
so.
better. That was
Yeah.
better. So I didn't get to present my thing in the conference, but I always wanted, to because that was the thing for designers, right?
Yeah.
Also, whoever cares about AIGA, they're probably designers, diehard into design, because this thing is so old school. It's so legit in the design industry.
It's like the thing.
Yeah. So I printed out 1,200 stickers, the night before.
Well, you printed them yourself?
Myself.
Oh my God. I
Because
didn't
don't
realize
have budget,
that.
right? I still don't have budget. I didn't have budget. So I printed all these things, and I cut all these. I cut all these things myself for 1,200. I did that the night before.
Oh
and
my
I
God.
thought, okay, so the conference was for a night, was for days. Whatever I needed to do, just I needed to get up early, arrange all these stickers around the coffee machine on the coffee tables before everyone get in, right? So that's what I did. So
Yeah, it was 9 a.m. when we met.
But I got there probably 7:30 or something. I just put all these stickers around, and I hide somewhere far away. And I started to look at people oh, who's picking up these stickers, And you, Sean, you were peeking at these things. So I went to you hey, Sean, I didn't know your name, but it's okay, you are clear looking my stuff. Let me do my elevator pitch.
Yeah.
That's how we met. But
I'm a big fan of things left on tables and picking them up and keeping them.
Yeah.
I mean, you're in my office right now, and it is basically a hoarder's den. It's so dense with just things that I've found in various places.
But this is beautiful, right? You found all these, probably weirder things than mine.
Well, I mean, your thing was so special, and getting to hear from you, getting to meet you and getting to hear the story of this thing. And I feel good about being able to give these back to folks here, because, Portland State, there are a lot of folks who are coming here after doing other things in their life, or having big life events like cancer or childbirth or other things where, essentially their CV is interrupted.
Right.
And I feel good about having been able to share this project with them, and hopefully give them at least another tool that they can use.
Yeah. Yeah. And this message, today, I'm just keep hammering this, for everyone, in the community. This is the elephant in the room.
Yeah.
No one's ever wanted to talk about it, right?
Yeah.
And no one understands it. But let's talk about it. Why not? Even
we have to.
Right, we have to. And everyone's saying thought leadership. That's just such an insult. It's what do you mean? That just means blah blah.
Yeah.
No one does anything except talking about it. But we have to make some actions.
Yeah.
Right. We have to actually do something, to build something, to help people.
This affects everybody in some way or another.
Right. And if you're thinking about diversity and equity and inclusion, if you're even just thinking about cancer is super inclusive.
Yeah.
Cancer doesn't care about your skin color,
Nope.
your gender, right? Sex orientations. No.
Yeah.
It's super inclusive. Everyone gets it.
Yeah.
So I think that's the mindset we should have, right?
Yeah. It's a problem for everybody.
Yeah. And as designer, I think that's probably one of the most valuable things we could do. Is just, help people communicate these things.
Yeah.
Right. Because we recognize that as a communication barrier. Most people, they recognize that too, but they don't have the tools.
Yeah.
They don't have their ways to communicate it. If we can help them to communicate this thing, to start this conversation. That's our job.
Absolutely. It's such an incredible project. And I hope everybody who like, I hope everybody just in general goes and seeks it out and learns more about like what tools are out there for people who are dealing with cancer or people who are dealing with like other gaps in their resume.
Yeah.
To show off the skills that they are gaining from that experience. Eason, if people want to find your work or just more about you, where do they go? How do they look up stuff?
Go to LinkedIn,
Everyone's favorite social network, LinkedIn?
Well, it's it clearly works for Ned, because I'm trying I'm trying to hack the system. That's what I do. So I launched it on LinkedIn because
you can add it as a block for that gap.
And also like what I wanted it because everyone they needed something to fill their gaps for their career, right? So that was the original thinking to start this company, this organization. Is if I have a big company, I have a big organization, they can just take a job title from my company to fill this, career gap they have on their resume. That's how I started this on social media,
it's
on LinkedIn.
It's a brilliantly simple idea.
So that's why it lives there, and certainly it works. So yeah, I think LinkedIn is still the best system to hack.
You heard it here, folks. Go hack LinkedIn.
Yeah.
There's so much personal information on LinkedIn. Don't actually hack LinkedIn. They would probably be a problem. Thank you so much for being here, Eason, for driving down from Seattle to Portland.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. And also, hey, listener, thank you to you for being you and for listening specifically, not just for being you. If this sounds like the kind of show that you enjoy, why not rate it? Why not review it? Why not subscribe to it in your podcatcher of choice? Because then you'll get, all kinds of updates from the show, such as new episodes, but also you'll be able to share those episodes with a friend. Speaking of that, actually share it with friends. Tell them about the show, and then they will hear about it. That's sort of how communication works, I've found, generally. You can follow the show in various social media forms, such as on Instagram, where you can get some good images associated with each episode. And also, if you want to, see those images on a website platform. Why have I forgotten how to talk? I made a website, and it's called dididothat.design. And that's also where you can get the links to our social media formats as well. So go pay it a visit. Enjoy it. Please don't hack it. I don't think you can hack Webflow. I would be surprised. But yeah. So this is Did I Do That? I am Sean Schumacher. And as we always say at the close of every episode...
Was it? I forgot it. I forgot the thing.
That, as we always say, I forgot the thing. Okay, bye. So I usually open with a weird little bit, and I want to give you sort of the option on which feels like it would be the best fit for you.
Yeah.
So one is the subject of Peeps, the wonderful Easter treat. And the other option is Jennifer Coolidge. Which one sounds like it would be most interesting to you?
I don't even know who that person
Okay,
is.
so Peeps it is.
Yeah.
That'll be very exciting. Okay. All right.
Why Peeps? Why not St. Patrick's Day? It's even more timely.
Well,